Welcome to the BlockReel Film Industry Podcast, your daily source for cinematography insights, production strategies, and the latest from the independent film world.
It is great to be back. And today is a special one because we are finally pulling back the curtain on a project that's been consuming the BlockReel editorial team for, the last month?
Oh, at least. We've really been living and breathing this. We're doing a deep dive into our brand new guide, Crafting the Invisible Narrative, a cinematographer's approach to visual storytelling. And I want to set the stage here right away. If you're listening to this, on your commute or in the edit bay and you're hoping for a spec sheet comparison, maybe the new 8K sensors or something, this isn't that conversation.
Right. We really felt like we needed to hit pause on the whole gear acquisition thing. The premise of this guide, and honestly the premise of any enduring filmmaking, is that a clean, high-resolution image is just the baseline now.
It's the ticket to the game. That's it.
It's the bare minimum.
Exactly. I mean, anyone with a credit card can get a cinema camera, so the barrier to entry for pretty pictures is, for all intents and purposes, gone. But what we argue in the guide is that true cinematography isn't about the tech. It's about the architecture of emotion.
That phrase, architecture of emotion, that really became our North Star while we were writing this. It implies that visual choices are structural.
They're load-bearing.
They are completely load-bearing.
Yeah.
If you put a light in the wrong place, you aren't just making a scene look, flat.
Yeah.
You might actually be contradicting the story. You're compromising the structural integrity of the whole narrative.
So yeah, this deep dive is for the working DPs, for directors, for anyone who wants to stop just recording events and start, collaborating with the story. So let's get into it. First up, the genesis of visual language. We open the guide with this idea of the silent narrator.
It's this idea that the visuals, the camera, it's communicating a subtext that dialogue just can't touch. And to explain this, we drew a parallel in the guide to the Impressionist painters, Monet, Renoir.
Which feels like a bit of a history class reference, but it's actually incredibly practical.
It's so practical. I mean, people starting out often think of the DP as the technical accuracy person, right? Is it in focus? Is it exposed correctly?
The checklist.
But the Impressionists they flipped that script completely. They stopped trying to paint reality. They weren't photocopiers. They started painting the sensation of light and air.
How a moment felt.
Exactly. Not just what it looked like. And that's what we call the phenomenological approach in the guide.
So when you're on set, looking at that monitor, instead of just checking your histogram,
you should be asking, what does this image feel like in my gut? Does it feel anxious? Does it feel peaceful? Right. Because if your exposure is perfect, but the feeling is wrong, the shot is a failure.
And it's funny, we paired this high art concept with something very technical in the guide. User experience or UX design.
Yeah, we pulled from Studio Binder in the Interaction Design Foundation. It sounds like a weird mix, Renoir and a website designer.
But it holds up. The logic is there.
It holds up perfectly. In UX, you use visual hierarchy colors, spacing, layout, to guide a user through a website so they don't get lost or frustrated.
Yeah.
Cinematography is the exact same thing. You're guiding the audience's emotional processing.
Right. If a user gets lost on a website, they close the tab. If an audience gets visually lost because your lighting doesn't match the script's tone, they check out emotional.
They stop caring. So what we're doing is preventing emotional confusion. The visuals are functional, not just decorative. And to do that, you need a toolkit. Which brings us to the second section, the visual lexicon.
Okay, this is the nuts and bolts. Composition, the psychology of the frame. And I feel like film schools, and I'm guilty of this too, we often teach shot sizes as just a checklist. You need a wide, a medium, a close-up, done.
That's the coverage mindset. And it's the death of creativity. In the guide, we argue that these are not technical requirements, they're emotional coordinates. A wide shot isn't just showing the room.
It's context.
It is context. It's the character in relation to their world. Is that world dominating them? Are they tiny in the frame, or do they own that space?
As opposed to the close-up, we describe the close-up in the guide as an aggressive act.
It is. I mean, think about real life. If I walked up to you right now and put my face 6 inches from yours, how would you feel?
I'd feel...
Yeah,
incredibly uncomfortable, maybe intimidated. Or maybe...
Intimate. Exactly. It's forced intimacy.
Yeah.
You are forcing the audience to breach that character's personal space.
Yeah.
You're doing a visual zoom right into their psyche.
And if you do it too often, it loses all its power.
It becomes meaningless.
Yeah.
And one technique we highlight here is rack focus. I see this abused so often. You get a fast lens, f1.4, and you just rack back and forth because it looks cinematic.
The cool factor.
The cool factor is so dangerous. Rack focus is real-time editing. If you shift focus from a speaker to a listener, you're grabbing the audience's head and turning it. You're shouting, look at the reaction. The reaction matters more than the words right now.
So let's talk about breaking the grid. We all learn the rule of thirds, but we spend a lot of time in the guide on negative space and eye lines.
Oh, negative space is a massive lever for controlling empathy. If you frame a character way over to the far right and they're looking off screen to the right, so their nose is almost touching the edge of the frame.
That's called short-sighting, and it creates a ton of tension.
Massive tension.
Yeah.
Because you've cut off their future, you can't see where they're going, it feels claustrophobic. But if you give them tons of lead room, empty space in front, it implies possibility, or maybe emptiness, loneliness.
We called it breathing room in the guide.
Yes. And it's a literal feeling. A tight frame, the audience feels like they can't breathe, too loose, and the character feels untethered,
And of course, you can't ignore what's actually in that space. The mise en scène.
That fancy French term for stuff in the frame.
Pretty much. But it all has to be coherent.
It has to sing the same song. You can't have gritty, noir lighting if the set dressing looks like a cozy sitcom. The audience's brain just rejects the image.
Speaking of light singing, let's move to segment 3. Sculpting with light and movement. We treat light as a character in itself.
Light is primal. It bypasses the intellect. We react to light biologically. Light, sharp shadows, high contrast. It creates adrenaline. It feels harsh. Soft light feels safe, romantic.
We also make a big distinction between motivated and unmotivated light. I think this is where a lot of people struggle.
Yeah, so motivated light means light on screen has a logical source in the story world. A window, a lamp, a headlight. Unmotivated light is just movie light. You put it there because you need to see the actor better.
And that can break the spell.
It does. It takes you out of it. If a character walks into a dark cave and suddenly they're hit with this perfect, soft beauty light from nowhere, the tension just evaporates. You know you're on a movie set.
We have the perfect case study for this in the guide. Sicario, shot by the legend Roger Deakins. The border tunnel sequence.
Oh, this is a masterclass in courage. It's what separates good from great.
Yeah.
So the team goes into this pitch black smuggling tunnel. A lesser DP would have said, okay, let's put some dim blue lights along the floor so we can see their faces.
But Deakins didn't do that.
Nope. He lit the scene only with the practical sources available.
The flashlights on their guns.
That's it. And the night vision perspective. If a flashlight isn't pointing at something, you do not see it. It is just absolute blackness.
It is terrifying to watch.
Because it's real. The darkness is the antagonist in that scene. That visceral fear only exists because Deakins refused to cheat with unmotivated light. He chose the emotion of fear over the clarity of the image.
And that leads right into movement. A dolly shot versus handheld.
Movement is the heartbeat. A smooth dolly shot feels objective. It feels like fate. It says, this is happening and you can't stop it. Handheld is subjective. It vibrates with the operator's pulse. It's anxious, urgent, human.
But the guide also talks about the power of not moving.
Stillness, yeah. In an era where the camera's always swooping around, a locked-off shot is incredibly loud. It forces the audience to observe. It can imply entrapment. If a character's freaking out in a room, but the camera just sits there like a stone, it emphasizes their helplessness.
Let's shift to the glass. Lenses and color. For a lot of people, zooming in is just about getting closer.
But it's about changing the geometry of the world. A wide-angle lens, it expands space. It makes a small room look huge. But get it close to a face, and it distorts everything. It feels grotesque or comedic.
Versus the telephoto?
The telephoto compresses space. It pulls the background right up behind the subject, isolating them. It can feel like surveillance, like the sniper view. Or it can feel incredibly romantic, because the rest of the world just blurs away.
We're also seeing this big resurgence in vintage lenses.
We are, because modern lenses are optically perfect.
Almost too perfect.
They're clinical. They have no soul. Vintage lenses have flaws. They flare. They're soft in the corners. And those flaws feel like memory. They feel organic. It adds a texture that these clean digital sensors desperately need.
Now, color. We warn against lazy color coding. Red means anger, blue means sad.
Yeah, that's Color Theory 101, and it's almost always wrong. Context is everything.
The example we cite is Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood for Love.
One of the most beautiful films ever, shot by Christopher Doyle. The film is just drenched in red. But it's not a Valentine's Day red. It's a suffocating red. The curtains, the walls,
Hmm.
it represents repressed desire, heat with nowhere to go.
Wow. And you contrast that with Lebesky's work on the Tree of Life.
Totally different. Lebesky used natural light, especially magic hour, that soft blue light after sunset. He used that to create a spiritual grammar. The family scenes in nature feel divine, and then he contrasts that with the harsh, green fluorescent lights of the father's office. You don't need dialogue to know which world is heaven and which is hell. The light tells you.
This brings us to a really crucial part of the guide, the intellectual dimensions. Section 5. We wanted to make sure we address the fact that the camera is not a neutral observer.
It isn't. The camera has a bias.
Mm-hmm.
Or rather, the technology itself has a history that affects how we use it.
And we specifically talk about skin tone representation and the historical reality of film stock.
It's a matter of chemistry. For decades, film stocks were chemically optimized to render white skin tones. The reference cards, the Shirley cards, they all used white models. So from a purely technical standpoint, if you were shooting dark skin, the film literally wasn't designed for it. You had to overlight it.
Which often looked terrible, but that's changing. We point to Moonlight as a huge moment.
Moonlight is essential viewing for any DP. James Laxton and Barry Jenkins made a conscious choice to break those old rules. They used soft light, they oiled the actor's skin so it would reflect the environment's colors, the blues, the purples. He treated the skin like a landscape.
It's also about technique. We mentioned Bradford Young, who shot Arrival and Selma.
Bradford Young is a master of what we call negative fill. Instead of blasting light at a dark-skinned face, he takes light away from the surroundings to create contrast. He sculpts the face with shadow. It respects the complexity of the skin tone.
And we also touch on the male gaze.
Which is really about the relationship between the camera and the subject.
Right.
Are we looking at a character as an object, or are we looking with them as a subject? If the camera is lingering on a body part while a character is giving a serious monologue, the visual language is undermining the narrative.
Okay, before we get to the practical steps, let's run through the common pitfalls we listed. Number 1, pretty pictures that say nothing.
The cardinal sin. The drone shot. You're in a tense argument and suddenly cut to a sweeping drone shot of the city. Why? Because you rented the drone. It interrupts the emotional flow. It's just vanity.
Another big one is inconsistent visual language.
Right. You have to set the rules for your world. You can't start a film looking like a handheld doc and end it looking like a glossy music video. Unless the story justifies that shift. You break your own rules, the audience gets confused.
And finally, grading as fixing.
The old, we'll fix it in post. We've all been there. But color grading is authorship. It's the final rewrite. If you're just using it to fix exposure errors, you are wasting half of your storytelling potential.
So we've covered the philosophy, the tools, the responsibility. Let's bring this home with our last segment, workflow and actionable advice. How do our listeners apply this tomorrow?
It starts in pre-production. I cannot stress this enough. Visual storytelling is written, not improvised. It starts with lookbooks, mood boards, conversations, long before you're on set.
The guide lists some specific exercises. My favorite is deconstruct.
I do this all the time. Don't just watch a movie, pause it, freeze a frame that makes you feel something, and then reverse engineer it. Where's the key light? Is it hard or soft? Why is the camera there and not 2 feet to the left?
It's like taking an engine apart.
Exactly. Another great one is silent storytelling. Try to shoot a sequence, just 5 shots, that tells a clear story with a beginning, middle, and end, but with no audio, no dialogue, no sound. If the audience gets it, you're using visual language.
And build a visual glossary.
Yes. Save references. But don't just categorize them as cool shots. Categorize them by emotion. A folder for loneliness, a folder for betrayal. Fill them with images. When you need that emotion, you have a library to draw from.
Finally, the guide really emphasizes collaboration.
Talk to your production designer.
Yep.
Early. The color of the wall they pick will dictate everything about your lighting. You're building the image together. The camera doesn't exist in a vacuum.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today. I mean, from Impressionism to Sicario.
It really just reinforces the main point of the guide. Cinematography is a heavy responsibility. As we wrote in the conclusion, we are shaping culture one frame at a time.
That's a powerful thought. Every image you put out there either reinforces a worldview or challenges it.
Absolutely. And frankly, looking at it that way makes the job a hell of a lot more exciting than just worrying about pixel counts.
That wraps today's episode. For the complete guide with detailed breakdowns and templates, visit our blog at blockreeldow.com/blog. Subscribe to our channel for daily episodes covering cinematography, VFX, color grading, and production design. Thanks for listening and keep creating.